Hey folks, you're listening to or watching B2B Growth Jump. I'm your host, Tony from LandingRabbit. I've been building B2B SaaS companies for over 15 years, and I interview guests who are out there doing B2B sales and marketing, not just sharing theories. In this episode, I'm joined by Brian from Latitude. Latitude helps founders and business owners like you and me to create LinkedIn content. In this episode, we're going to discuss how founders can use LinkedIn content, what some of the best tactics that Brian has seen with their clients are, and why you should get started with LinkedIn too. Without further ado, let's dive in.
Hey, Brian, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no worries. Great to have you here and great to learn more about Latitude. Could you tell me a bit about Latitude, what you guys do, and who are your best customers?
Absolutely. So, a little bit about Latitude. I guess really the idea for Latitude started 14 years ago. It's weird to kind of say that, but that's when I started posting on LinkedIn. And I think one of the largest takeaways over that time is that being consistent with content is extremely difficult. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, totally. It's like I'm trying to do 4 posts a week, and I can see the algorithm likes my post a bit more when I'm posting often and not taking breaks.
Right. So 4 times a week, what is that? Like 108 times a year or something like that, times 14. And now you start to understand the extent of the problem. And it's not even necessarily just the ideation that is challenging. It's also like how to write it. The algorithm is always changing. But I think like overall the goal is the same for LinkedIn, which is to like get yourself visible on the platform. And in our estimations, visibility happens in two different ways. One is by commenting on people's posts, but the other is, and the area where we focus, which is in posting specifically. So I've been writing posts for 14 years. It's not my favorite thing to do in the world. I would say my favorite thing to do in the world is just to share information with people and use it as a way of connecting, not necessarily the posting or the mechanics of it. And so we designed Latitude to help users think less about posting and spend that time instead connecting with people like what we're doing right now.
I'm sure you felt you struggled with something. What were the things that inspired you to do Latitude that, okay, let's build this. We need to solve some of these pain points.
I mean, I would say like the pain point has been consistent over the years. I would say the thing that changed was artificial intelligence came along, and we no longer have to spend $50 to $100,000 kind of prototyping something to solve a problem.
Yeah.
So I think that I'm always a person that learns off a practical application of technology, and that was a practical application of technology. I had a problem. I said I would solve this for myself. I started doing what I normally do, which is talking to people about it. Found that there was a general interest, and fast forward to whatever about a year later, and now we have an actual company and lots of users and roadmap and potential investors and customers and agencies selling our software. It's really interesting.
Yeah, it really changes when you then actually start, selling the product and you start to learn like how others think about this. I'm discussing with founders a lot. I'm involved with different groups of founders here in London. Really, really nice to kind of discuss with them how they do marketing. Many of them say that LinkedIn is a tough one for them. They don't like LinkedIn for some reason, or they find it really difficult to find ideas or think what to post on LinkedIn. What are some of the things that are stopping founders today when you're discussing with them? What are they saying? Why they're not posting on LinkedIn?
So it's interesting. You say that LinkedIn is hard, and I agree with you, and I agree with people's opinions on it. What also is interesting about that is I would argue that it's getting even harder. And the reason why it's getting even more difficult is that everything is now curated. Everyone is running their content through artificial intelligence before it hits the platform. So the ability for people to get up off the couch and get hosting, for example, has become easier, which has created a lot of noise, which means that you're now fighting against more noise at the end of the day. But that being said, I think that the same things that have been holding true as far as like consistency sticking to a message, knowing your audience and what you're trying to accomplish. I think that regardless of what the algorithms say, like those things kind of still hold true, right?
Yeah, totally. Like being consistent with also with topics matters a lot. I try to talk to my specific audience, which are mostly startup founders,
Right.
go-to-market experts, and I'm not super strategic about it. I wouldn't say that I have like content pillars or anything, but I try to talk about things that I think about a lot when I'm doing my own go-to-market activities, and that kind of fuels my post. Yeah, there's quite a few ways to approach it. What are the things that if I'm a founder today considering to start this LinkedIn journey, I haven't done anything before, how I should get started? Should I start posting 4 times a week or start with something more realistic?
So that is a common misconception is people think that they'll get a better result by just like posting more. Like if I post 4 times, I get X, and if I post 8 times, then I get times two, but that's not really the way that it works. I mean, the advice that I would give people more than anything, and it's kind of like the same advice that you give people when you talk about like retirement investment, is like you can't get the time back, right? Like that's a matter of fact. Like the timeline is still moving. So just get on there, start connecting with people, connect with your peers, comment on their post, share things, write articles. I mean, we spend at least 40 hours a week working. You're telling me like in that 40 hours there's not like an interesting or unique observation or two that you can make in there to share with people? Like I think people worry that it needs to be so like curated. It needs to be so perfect. And that's I think maybe that's one of the answers to the question that you asked, which is like that is one of the things that gets people stuck. So they feel like it needs to be perfect.
Totally. I before I started posting, this is about 18 months ago or so. I just decided on my own that I'm gonna start posting, see what happens. And for context, I've been building SaaS companies for more than 15 years, and I haven't posted a lot. I've only posted like, "Hey, we're hiring someone," or
Right.
celebrating some milestones over the way. But I would say maybe a couple of posts per year. So nothing really. And one of the things that stopped me posting was the fact that I felt that I need to have something super strategic, well
Yeah.
planned, something interesting. And part of it for me has been the sort of like watching how the really good ones, like some people who maybe do it as almost like a profession. So that is their business. They run the LinkedIn game so well. And then when you're thinking that, well, it's just my thought. Who would care? It's like, but it's really surprising that people actually.
That's common. That is 100% common is they think like, oh, like who am I? Who am I to have an opinion on something? Like, why am I entitled? Like what makes me special at it? Because they also think they unfairly estimate what the response to it's going to be. Like they think that someone's going to criticize them for putting some information out there and thinking that they act like they know something. Like, can you imagine risking knowing something and taking a chance and having people criticize you as a
Yeah,
result of it? It's kind of like real life almost.
yeah, totally. It just like feels as a founder when you're doing it for the first time, you probably think that everyone's gonna read this or everyone's gonna think a lot like when they see your post. But in reality, we just scroll those posts and we don't really think like,
Totally.
oh,
Exactly.
what this person. If there's something that really interests us, then obviously we comment or like or so. But so many people just like scroll through the and they I don't remember any post that I've seen today, for example, because it's a moment in time and you probably forget it. So I think we're overthinking as founders sometimes that how much people care.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that I read somewhere that an average person sees 20 to 30 posts on their LinkedIn feed on a daily basis. And the reason why you don't remember them is not because the posts weren't good. There were probably some good posts in there. There just wasn't any that are like really, really good that stuck out to you. You know what I mean? And that's something that I hear people complain about a lot, which is just like there's just so much noise. And the
Yeah.
advice that I give people is just like, if you see something in your feed and you don't like it, there's a little X in the top right hand corner for a reason. Like that's how you course correct the algorithm back into things that you're interested in, really.
Yeah, that's great point, and I think it's also connected to your commenting earlier, saying that like, hey, commenting is really important thing. What I've seen lately is that because I've been commenting on things that are SEO related, AI SEO related, and I've posted something about those topics as well. All of a sudden, LinkedIn starts to feed in like second, third tier contacts that are talking about SEO. So like being involved, actively commenting, maybe posting something yourself is a great way to get quite nicely curated feed for yourself.
Correct. Exactly. The algorithm does try to guide you into making an effective use out of it, because if you use it effectively, then they ultimately benefit because you'll say, "Oh, I used it and it was great." And largely, you would say that that is true because the platform keeps growing. I think there's like 1.5 billion subscribers or something like that on
Yeah.
Insta or LinkedIn at this stage, and it just keeps growing and growing.
Yeah, yeah, it's amazing. What are some of the things when you're posting? What are some of the things that you're seeing working today? I know that the algorithm is changing constantly. Someone is saying,
Mm.
"Oh, you need this and this type of content." But yeah, what are either so formats or certain topic ideas that are working for you right now?
Yeah, I would say, as far as the algorithm's concerned, that portion of things hasn't changed. In terms of like the mechanics behind the scene, like there's certain follower thresholds where the algorithm experiments with your content slightly different. But as far as like what is relevant, what performs well, I think that falls into a couple different categories. But just broadly speaking, people like to celebrate wins and successes, and or what they call upswings. Really, it's just like a moment where you got a promotion or you learned something new, or you closed a big deal, or you got some recognition or whatever it is. Like those things generally tend to do well on LinkedIn. They're promoted, and they should be, because there should be recognition when you get a promotion. When you do a good job, other people should know about it, and then you feel good because then they celebrate in the victory with you. It's just a wonderful thing kind of overall. So I would say topics like that do really well. So think about, if you're trying to fill out your content calendar, if you will, think about the things that you are working on, that you've been doing, that are interesting from the perspective of like you taking a step up in your career or your personal life, or whatnot.
Yeah, those are great ones. What I've seen in my feed when I'm following others is that whenever they share something a bit more personal, and I don't mean like necessarily personal life related, like getting married or something like a big events, but more like personal story inside the workplace, for example. Those work really well when you're sharing like the struggles you had or the person that you used to be and how you've kind of transformed
Correct.
somewhere. Someone commented I had this, I don't remember the exact topic, what I was talking about, but I basically said that this was my past. This is how I operated as a marketing manager. And then I shared my current flow. And someone commented, "Oh, in the middle of the post, I thought you were gonna ask us to comment and like to get some sort of playbook because this started to like sound like that." So I think people are kind of like when they start reading a personal story, they get sort of like they pay a much more attention than just like sharing very strategic advice or so. But yeah,
Yeah, because
how
the thing is, it's rooted in an emotional connection, right? Like you put yourself in the shoes of the person that's writing, and you understand. You can get, and if it's told to you in the way of a story, if it's scannable, if you can look at it quickly and get from the top to the bottom without choking over the level of details that sometimes people, and that's another thing, like the most important thing of any way in which you're conveying information, if it's through LinkedIn or any other medium, is like the first sentence or two. When you're meeting someone, when you're throwing a post on LinkedIn, it's like if you don't get them in the first sentence or two, they're just scrolling on to the next of their 20 to 30 posts that they're going to look at today.
Yeah, definitely. I've one of the great books that I've read recently is called Storyworthy, and basically that is a book that handles how comedians or someone who's like doing a short talk can create this storyline. And the storyline in that case is like you start with basically the highlight of the story. You don't reveal everything, but you almost reveal everything, and then you go back to the start, and then you're back again at the top where you then actually share the beef
Right.
again, and then you summarize it. So
Right.
that's like the in that book, that's a great tactic to, and he's in the book, the author is demonstrating how in the context of a comedy show, you can use that when you're sort of like having a short speech with some jokes
Yeah.
included. Yeah, it's all about stories in the end.
I mean, I think that the intuitive thing that you think that you should do is that you should save the lesson, the valuable nugget, like in the depths of the content, because you're like, well, that's what I have to give people, and so like that's what they want to get to. But if you take too long to get there, then they'll never get to the valuable part anyway. So what good is it having it buried at the end? What good is having the most spectacular ending possible if no one reads the beginning of it?
Yeah, exactly. That's the and I think it applies to so many things. It's blog posts, it's YouTube videos, it's like everything, all content.
Everything.
Especially
Correct.
now, like what we know about obviously SEO in the age of AI is slightly different, and AI services are somewhat black boxes. You don't know all the details, but what is very clear from technical point of view is that you should have like the question and then the answer straight away as much as possible. So
Yeah.
like slightly turning it upside down, how we probably in school we learned like, okay, let's build the story first, and just like you said, that at the end we reveal, and that's where it's all summarized. But yeah, the AI services, because of the technical details, they kind of look at the chunks of content, and you want that answer to be in the same chunk of content
Yes.
that
Correct.
distribute.
Yeah. And like from a practical sense, like if you look at LinkedIn at a certain stage, it's and you know, at first you think it's like a mystery. You're like, how does it decide like when it wants to put the see more button there? Like why does it do that? Right. Because like again, like you're giving them enough information in like that first compressed sentence or two to get them to say like, all right, well, what, fine, you got me. What the hell is the
Yeah.
rest of this, you know? And that's how the interaction on the platform is driven.
Yeah, that first sentence can ruin it or win it. I've seen it like in terms of obviously not everything is about likes and comments and the engagement. There's a you don't need to chase that specifically, but yeah, you can definitely tell when the hook of the post, the first line, is working better, and you can see it in the comments because the comments change instantly. They kind of touch that hook instead of maybe the whole
Oh
post
yeah,
in
for sure, for
general.
sure.
So yeah,
But also it's another coin entirely, right? If the hook is not good, you're not going to have any comments. No one's going to comment on it. No one's going to say anything for you to respond to. So don't worry about
yeah,
it. Like if your hook is boring, don't worry, you won't have any responses that you need to defend it with.
yeah. What's your kind of strategy when you're thinking about your content? How do you balance the attack versus still being quite political, moderate? How do you balance that sort of relationship?
I mean, I would say for me, to a degree, it kind of starts with compartmentalization. The content that you see out of me on LinkedIn is going to be vastly different than the content you see out of me on Facebook or on Instagram. Like, it might not mirror with like what my Spotify or YouTube music playlist looks like. It might not be aligned exactly. So I would say like yeah, I think you hinted at this to an extent earlier. You said about like how personal stories do really well. And that's an interesting comment because certain personal stories do really well and certain personal stories do really poorly. It's a very thin line to tread when you talk about that. But as far as like my content strategy is concerned, like I would say like I'm such a novice compared to the people that I run into on a day-to-day basis. I feel like I am just experimenting. I just learned about 6 months ago, maybe even less than that, the content pillar
Mm,
concept. I didn't know about skyscraping, for
mm,
example. So I would say what's maybe made me unique is that I'm constantly realizing how little I know. And
mm,
as a result, I learn a little bit more and then I implement it. Not that it's like some kind of best practices. It's just like, I got some sort of sensory reward out of it. And so I kind of like any kind of lizard brain being kind of follow the cheese trail again. But certain people are way more prescriptive about it. Like Tuesdays I do this, Wednesdays I do this, Fridays I do this, and no, not for me. Like it's literally like I'm looking at my phone, I noticed like something interesting, or I remembered that something does well, and I'm like, oh, okay, I should probably post about that or whatnot.
Yeah, there's so many ways how to kind of think about the content creation. For some people, it works better if they have a very strict calendar and some topics to write about. For me personally, I'm actually using like a sort of my flow is that I'll store comments from emails, from Slack, from LinkedIn, from different places where I'm sort of sharing some sort of an insight. That can be like when I'm describing my service in a way that I haven't done before, or when someone posts something and I'm really into that topic and I have actually something to share, I store those comments, and then over the weekend, usually Saturday or Sunday, I'll just look at the latest ones and I write those 3, 4 posts for
Yeah,
next week just from those. And one of the things that helps me there is that I already have some sort of connection in my brain that I've already been thinking about this. So it kind of like helps me to then write about those topics, and they are not really anything strategic. They're just like things that interest me, and I try to stick to entrepreneurship, marketing, and B2B. But like other than
right.
that, it can be roughly anything. So that's my
Some similar themes, right? Like it would be weird as if like you sold shoes, and then one day all of a sudden like people show up to buy shoes in your store and you sell light bulbs instead. They're just like, wait, what? What? I think I'm in the wrong place. And you're like, no, but listen, I'm still the guy that sells the shoes, but now I sell light bulbs. It's just like an incongruity that takes place, and that's why people say like, hey,
yeah, totally. I've had
gotcha.
a like what I've noticed with my LinkedIn audience is that it's not about the exact topics. What I'm talking about is more about the fact that am I resonating with the right audience? Because if I resonate with the right audience, then they come to my profile, they go to our website, they connect with me, and then they might send me a message saying that, oh, hey, I've been following your post for quite some time. Yeah, great to get connected, and that's a really warm. So it's not that much about the topic. It's more about like, well, is this the right content for the audience that you want to connect with, and then that will build a relationship
Right.
over time. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's
you
really
have to think about, and that's I think another thing that people don't do naturally is you have to think about who's reading it.
mm. Yeah.
Don't just think about like what you want to share, which is definitely a good place to start, but also like who is going to receive this information once you put it out there and how will they react to it or how do you want them to react to it?
Yeah, you mentioned a few things how you can have content ideas, and I'm sure Latitude can help with that as well. What are the ways that when you are like, okay, I need some content, how do you choose what to post about, and what things, tools, Latitude and others would help you create content today?
Yeah. So more or less, we identified that as one of the pain points, if you will, the friction points to maintaining consistency, which is just like the ideation phase. everyone to some extent has some sort of ritual that they observe in order to like squeeze content out of them, like their orange juice or something, right? Um, so with Latitude specifically, it starts by going out and querying the internet for what's popular right now. So that kind of puts you on the right trail, especially if you're not oriented. And then, kind of like as you feed it more information, it learns and orients itself more specifically. It does that by understanding the data associated with it, not just from you, but from other people that are using the platform as well, that kind of mirror you and what your goals are and what your audience is, to act as kind of a benchmark or point of comparison, which I don't think that you otherwise get. But other places that people use for inspiration is just like looking at creators in their particular niche and mirroring some of their topics. For example, any time where you get into an uncomfortable situation, think is probably a good thing to talk about as well, because people could learn from it and share in your experience. Um, what else? Certain structures work really well. So starting with a structure and just kind of frameworking it from there, like you said, get an idea and then say like, okay, well, this is what the hook is going to be. Here's what the body of it's going to be, and here's what the takeaway of it's going to be. So just having kind of a structured approach to it as well, outside of just using technology to help you.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds great. I don't use for my LinkedIn. I don't use any AI for now. I've kind of kept that as something that I'm just trying to be natural me. One of the reasons is that there's so few things right now where I'm not using AI, and I'm
Right.
thinking that, okay, well, if I can be just me and a person in one platform, then let it be LinkedIn for now. Elsewhere, there's so many things. I'm writing blog posts, landing pages. Everything is like with AI. So that's one of the things. Um, in addition to posting content, commenting on posts, and then I do some LinkedIn outreach as well. What are the other things in your workflow? Like, what do you have? What do you do daily or weekly? What are things?
Yeah, I mean, just to try to manage the massive quantity of activities and just stay deciding what the best best uses of those are, and then just trying to touch base with everyone, experimenting with this concept of warm calling versus cold calling, where it's like, hey, like that's always the thing. Like when you're trying to like sell something or build something up from a commercial perspective, like how much outreach are you doing, right? And it's mostly all predicated upon like cold outreach. How many cold dials are you doing every week? But like, how many warm dials are you doing every week? How many people in your network are you touching base with and seeing like how you can synergize with one another, how you can help them out, and how they can help you out? So I would say, as an early stage business owner, I'm constantly trying to figure out how to like squeeze more out. And so that's what I would say I spend most of my time trying to figure out how to filter through it and get the most out of, the 8 hours a day we're supposed to dedicate to this.
Yeah. And regarding LinkedIn specifically, are there certain like tools or workflows or things that help you cut corners when we're super busy?
Yeah. So, I mean, you really have to be careful because, technology companies are getting banned left and right. They're looking for these kind of unfair advantages. So, I mean, the general advice that I would give people is like try to find tools and technology that don't compromise your accounts. Because if you do find something that is operating in a gray area, like you might get away with it, you might not. But if you don't get away with it, you could kind of potentially set yourself back pretty big time if you have to restart over from scratch again. So, not really a whole lot of other special stuff outside of just being present on the platform and using my own product to stay posting. I would say though, like one of the things that I think I've recognized is I don't comment enough. And
Mm.
so, like, I am interested to see, like, and I know that LinkedIn frowns upon that, like having something that comments for you or comments back, but maybe something that like kept track of all of the comments
Mm.
and gave me a better sense of how I could start attacking it. Cause like I was looking at my phone yesterday, I had 475 notifications on it. Like I got other stuff I gotta do. Like I don't have time to scroll through all my notifications. Like I'm sorry, I wish I did, but I need a way of like seeing how to allocate my time more than anything else. And I'm doing that manually, and that's a lot. It's a lot of effort.
Yeah, that's one thing where I don't know if it's gonna be latitudes toward like future paths, but one of the things that I miss is that it's really hard to kind of discover the best post to comment. So right now my commenting is based on the what the algorithm is
Right.
recommending. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it gets like, okay, I'm giving you a lot of these things that I'm not really interested in. Maybe it gets an idea from certain posts or comments that I've made. But yeah, in general, it's not easy to find like new people that are potentially your ICP, and then just like you said, make it really consistent, posting, commenting as a collab. So I think at the moment it requires a lot of time and effort to be commenting actively and so forth. But yeah, I don't
Yes,
know
it
what are your
does.
yeah, what are your
I've
thoughts on
said
that
that.
for Latitude? What are your things in the roadmap right now? How are you
Oh,
expanding?
so we're gonna have a big release today. I'm delaying that in favor of being here on the show recording this right now. So I'll get back to that after I deal with my car issues that I'm also having this morning. But as far as what we're gonna do with the roadmap, I mean, to an extent, you'll have to kind of check it out on your own. Like we have access to the tool without any credit cards or anything, so there's really zero reason for anyone not to try it out. We don't force you into a paid plan or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I would say the most interesting thing about it is, and there's a lot of bells and whistles, but we worked with an honest content creation studio. Like that's what they do. They just write all day long. And we really kind of have been working with them to understand what their process is from start to finish. Like, how do they take someone that is not a professional at this and make them look like a professional, and don't give away the secret that the individual isn't writing the content anymore, right? Like before AI existed, all your favorite CEOs and celebrities online had someone else writing content for them. That's a fact. Like whether you
Yeah.
want to believe it or not, like that is the case, right? So to make a long story short, we more or less took a portion of his boutique process, which people
Mhm.
pay a significant amount of money for, and we retrofitted that on top of our technology. So we are capturing information to create a strategy like an actual content creation studio does within the platform. And you'll be able to do that for free. So go and get your free LinkedIn strategy by giving us a little bit of your details. Right. That's the trade-off. But the output of it is that the content that Latitude is going to help extract from you, because our objective is not to replace you, it's to rather augment you or restore your time for other things, is to really be honed in and locked in on like what you're trying to accomplish. What are your goals? Like the platform never asked what your goals were before. Like you had
Yeah.
to come into it with your goals and you knew and you understood what your goals were, but for whatever reason you're like playing that tight to the chest, and like now we ask you, you're like, what are you trying to get out of this? And so if we ask that up front, we can kind of align your experience to what you're trying to get out of it. And so we think like that's going to be huge as far as like from a customer retention standpoint, because up until then, in order to like really successfully onboard anyone, we had to be hands on with them. And I think that's pretty normal for software companies for the first people that they're working with. It's just like the technology's not quite there yet. And in order to really make it work, you have to take your perspective and your experience with it and convey that through time. And the idea is now we won't have to invest that time. People will be able to kind of take it on their own and really get a really good result now. So we're excited about that.
Yeah, that sounds really exciting. The fact that you're kind of trying to replicate the boutique process. What I've seen working really well is like if you can do a voice note recording. So in your case, for example, there could be like some sort of an interview where I open my thoughts. I'll share my
Right.
thoughts. That's written or in my case, I love voice notes. Voice note includes so much rich information, and that's my best way of like creating blog posts and landing pages today. I'll just like share what I think, what I want to get out of it, and then AI can help me to get to the 90% or whatever version quite quickly. What are some of the inspirational people that you follow? I'm sure that you're following a lot of cool sort of LinkedIn creators, but if I would need to pick a few, do you have somebody or someone in mind?
Um, who comes to mind? A guy named Dan Golden. He was the ninth chief of NASA. He was responsible for the administration that put the IIS into space. He talks about like the new technology American kind of frontier, like re-owning that as like Americans, as like putting in the hard work, like doing the really challenging things, recreating the moon landing, if you will, like in other scenarios. A guy named Jason Lemkin, he runs a company called Saster. He always, he's talking about a guy named Alex Turnbull who talks about like kind of early stage founders, whether they should take equity or funding or not. And that's a really interesting question. If you ever find yourself in a position where you have that option, you should really weigh it heavily, because if you do or if you don't, they have profound impacts on it. Um, Trying to think who else. Yeah, I guess that would be maybe just a couple for you there. Um, yeah, I think that
Yeah.
that's good enough.
I love both Jason and Alex. The Jason, I don't actually follow him on LinkedIn, or I don't usually see his posts, but through X and then through podcast and so forth, he's a great character. Always like straight to the point and shaking the boat a bit, and great one. And I also like Alex in terms of the fact that he is trying to, and he's really, really consistently posting about the thing that you don't necessarily need to raise funding, and there's like upside and downside
Oh
to
yeah.
decisions. Because yeah, I've seen it in the startup ecosystem for all these 15 plus years that I've been involved, is that often founders have this goal of raising funding, and it's just a goal because everyone else is doing it. So it's not like it's not based on any real understanding of what it means. Like, does it mean that I can still control my company? Does it mean that my timeline to get an exit shortens? Like things like that. It's more about like showing to peers that okay, I can do it. I can also raise a massive round. But yeah, I love those two characters a lot. Where can people find more information about you and Latitude? What's the best way to find out?
Follow me on LinkedIn. Obviously, I post there regularly. I try to do the 2 to 3 time a week thing. I also do a sporadic Friday coffee series where I do a LinkedIn live event, or I bring in some well-known folks in the technology profession and the industry to kind of talk about their experience. And it's topical. It's not that structured. It's kind of like a coffee chat. We have the website for the product, get-latitude.com. So go and check that out there. We'll have a big release today. And since it's April Fool's Day, you'll still have to find out whether or not that's true. We're hoping that it will be true, but we'll see at the end of the day. But yeah, like I love connecting with people too. People come up to me in events and they're early stage employees, and I love talking to them about my journey. It makes me feel a little bit old because I kind of see myself in their shoes again. But I absolutely love just like connecting with people. So send me a connection request, send me a message. Hopefully this was interesting. Hopefully people took something from this and can benefit.
Yeah, thank you so much, Brian. This was a great one. I'm sure that founders will get a lot of value, and I encourage everyone to check Latitude, see if it's April's Fool joke or if
Right,
it's real. But
right.
I can guarantee it's real. It's gonna help you to strategize or build your first LinkedIn steps and beyond. So yeah, it was great having you, and yeah, all the success with the new launches ahead of you.
Yeah, thank you, Tony. Appreciate it.